The Rockefellers are a very elite, wealthy family, often considered the wealthiest family in America of all time. They're strongly connected with groups like the CFR, Bilderberg, and Trilateral Commission, as well as the Rothschilds family. So John D. Rockefeller Sr., he largely made his early fortunes in the Standard Oil Company, and he infiltrated many aspects of society. For example, he also bought a bunch of universities and the General Education Board, as well as the Rockefeller Foundation. Due to this, he's greatly affected the education system, and he ran the Standard Oil Company from 1870 to 1897. He was still its largest shareholder, so he was still making a bunch of money off of it, and his company was a monopoly. And now that company is known as 34 different companies, but it's all owned by the same family. So ExxonMobil and Chevron are now some of the companies that the Standard Oil Company became, in addition to about 32 other oil companies. So along with some of the stuff I've already mentioned that the Rockefellers have been involved in, or are still involved in, they also greatly have infiltrated big pharma and medicine in general, as well as media and banking. They're a major banking family. Also infiltrated music, politics, etc. So John D. Rockefeller Jr. had the Rockefeller Center built originally, and a lot of huge corporations at the time got involved. And those included some banking companies, mainstream media companies, and their Standard Oil Company. More specifically, General Electric, NBC, RCA, RKO, Standard Oil of New Jersey, which is now ExxonMobil, Associated Press, Time Incorporated, Time Magazine, and Chase National Bank, which is now JP Morgan and Chase, among other companies. And for a while, he was the director of JP Morgan's U.S. Steel Company. Also, due to a worldwide agreement made in 1953 by the Rockefeller Foundation, the common frequency of music is now 440 hertz rather than 432 hertz, and 432 hertz is a much more naturally healing frequency, and most popular music is now 440 hertz, unfortunately. It's one of the many ways they limit healing because they want people to buy their big pharma products. The Bilderberg group or meeting is an extremely elitist meeting, and it supposedly goes back to 1954. Now, David Rockefeller, one of the most major Rockefellers, was extremely involved in it, along with a lot of other evil elitists like Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton, Donald Rumsfeld, George Soros, Alan Greenspan, Rupert Murdoch, Jeff Bezos, and many more. Now, they own a ton of stuff, as you can see in this chart, that they're connected to. And it's a very secretive meeting. They don't even allow journalists in. It's a major part of the New World Order agenda and the Roundtable Society, which includes the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, Royal Institute of International Affairs, the United Nations, Council on Foreign Relations, and of course the Bilderberg Group. Also a lot of overlap with the World Economic Forum, but the Bilderberg Group is a lot more powerful, but they have a lot of the same agenda and members. The Trilateral Commission is also a very elitist international private organization and was founded by David Rockefeller, as well as Zbigniew Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter. It's not supposed to be a governmental organization. They call it a non-governmental organization. But it's also set to foster relations between different governments throughout North America, Western Europe, and Japan. So obviously it acts as a governing body of sorts. And it's part of the New World Order agenda and the Roundtable Society.
They identified him as a very person of great potential usefulness way back in Harvard, like in the 50s. And sure enough, he became enormously useful. And he identified with the rest of them, Klaus Schwab, and they helped him set up the European Economic or Management Forum in 1973, and that became the World Economic Forum in 87. And of course, they were instrumental in setting up the United Nations. The precursor was the League of Nations and the Trilateral Commission, and later the Club of Rome, ultra-rich guys, Climate Disaster Club.
But his confidence that his words would not leave the room was later broken.
We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and restricted their policies of discretion for almost 40 years. Yet we possible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the frank light of publicity. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government.
It reveals that these men aim to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. In short, they seek total and quiet control of the entire world. And the CFR is their most visible conduit for carrying out that agenda.
Well, with the Lisbon Treaty, European nations have lost almost their entire sovereignty. And we are now back to a pre-nation state condition, meaning feudalism.
You know, we're living on a very small planet with limited natural resources and an ever-growing population base. If you extrapolate that into the near future, in one generation, we're going to go to about 10 billion people. Then we're going to go to 14, 18, 21. It's going to get to the point we're always going to have enough space, because 7 billion people, space-wise, is not a lot. But we are running out of food, and we are running out of water, and we're running out of natural resources. So for the elitists, for the Rockefellers of this world to survive, and I say Rockefeller not because he's important, but because he's well-known, he's popular, which is not the same as being important. For the Rockefellers of this world to survive, most of us have to die.
Was an absolutely willful act on the part of precisely this Bilderberg apparatus.
And a one-world technocratic government. Essentially, the new international economic order, where a few control the many. So whilst Klaus Schwab created the World Economic Forum, David Rockefeller created the Trilateral Commission along with Zbigniew Brzezinski. The World Economic Forum was initially called the European Management Forum and was renamed in 1987 when they decided it was time to move to a global management organization and was cleverly rebranded as the World Economic Forum. At the time, the technocrats already had a few think tanks that had long been established, such as the Fabian Society in 1884 and Chatham House in the UK in 1920, and was created at the same time as its sister organisation, the Council on Foreign Relations in the USA in 1921. And of course, the technocrats had also created the Bilderberg Group in 1954, which both Klaus Schwab and David Rockefeller were on the steering committee of, along with Henry Kissinger. And of course, there was the Club of Rome, established in 1968. All of these organisations were serving their purpose in getting the world's most powerful and influential together behind closed doors to collaborate on a one world ruling plan and scientific dictatorship. So by the early 1970s, they took the next step and established two more platforms, two more institutions, the World Economic Forum and the Trilateral Commission. The World Economic Forum serves as the public relations department for the new international economic order, serving as a recruitment agency for bringing those from the public.
By the 1930s, John D. Rockefeller III was the head of 33 major boards and committees. Those include the General Education Board, the Rockefeller Foundation, and multiple medical boards, such as the China Medical Board and the Institute for Medical Research, and he was also the co-founder of the Population Council. Now, in addition to being the chairman of the CFR and having a major role in the Bilderberg Group / meeting, as well as founding the Trilateral Commission, David Rockefeller also had a major role in Chase National Bank, or Chase Manhattan Bank. He was also a big economist, politician, CIA guy, and military person. Nelson Rockefeller was a major politician, including Vice President of the United States under the presidency of Gerald Ford. He was a Republican, and there's even something known as Rockefeller Republicans. He also started the AIA, or American International Association for Economic and Social Development, as well as the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, which he started with some of his brothers. And he also had a role in a lot of other companies, and he worked in oil and banking like a lot of his family members. Sharon Rockefeller is known for her career in news media, being a member of the CFR, and a politician. She's also married to John D. Rockefeller IV, another major Rockefeller. Sharon is even the CEO of a specific news station and a big policymaker. John D. Rockefeller IV has served in a lot of different positions as a major politician and as both a Republican and Democrat. There currently are or have been at least 7 members of the Rockefeller family part of the CFR, and of course they play major roles in the Bilderberg Group and the Trilateral Commission, especially seeing as how David Rockefeller was the chairman of the CFR, had a big role in founding the Bilderberg Group, and founded the Trilateral Commission along with Zbigniew Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter. Anyways, there's a lot more to say about the Rockefellers, but thanks for watching.